Hello and good evening to my chapter review of Wildbow's web novel Twig Chapter 1.1 Taking Root. Why I'm doing this? There was a recently started video series about the first chapters of Worm, Wildbow's first web serial. So this inspired me to review Twig because I haven't read Twig yet. But I have read Worm twice. I have read its sequel, Ward, and I have read 2/3 of Pact. And so I thought, well, this is it's a good opportunity to start Twig. Um, the story starts with some ominous sentence. How does it go? The first lesson. Something even the uninitiated know. For life to flourish on the most basic level, it requires 4 elements: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen. So, the setting of Twig, that's what I heard, because I have very mild and general spoilers about the story, is that Twig takes place in an alternate Earth in the 1920s where scientists can engineer life forms. So, with basic chemical ingredients. So, the story starts somewhere around a barn, turned warehouse, turned something else, and it's not a normal building. There are plants which are strategically planted to support the building. That's a very interesting touch. So there are these 5 children named Cy or Sylvester, which seems to be the protagonist. Jamie, who stands guard and fails to stand guard, so that a small 10-year-old black kid sees that the children are up to no good and try to get into the barn. Lillian, a new child, a girl, 12 years old or something like that, who tries to help them, but as Sylvester points out, she's new to this. She's not one of us. That's very strange. And Helen, who doesn't say anything at all until the end of the chapter. So the children try to find their way into this barn turned warehouse turned something else, and they find a makeshift laboratory and a strange creature, a snake cat, something like a crossing between cat and an anaconda. So apparently these people in the 1920s have found some way to create life in a barn, in a shabby barn in a back alley. So it's quite astonishing, and we will see what that leads to. It is said, one being knit together from several, the better traits of each, all drawn together, references to Wallstone's texts, to the ratios of life, and to the volumes of genetic code for Felidae and Eunectus murinus. That's an anaconda. So the kids break into the barn. The snake charmer, as they call them, the scientist who created this being, returns, and he notices, what, children in here? Why aren't you eaten by my makeshift snake cat monster? So apparently the children used some kind of chemical to stop smells from being smelled by this monster, because it appears to be blind and only hears and smells them. And the snake charmer uses pheromones to control it, were to not be eaten himself, I think one of the girls, Helen, pours water over him from a high window, which is in the first story of the building. And now the man starts to smell again. But the man has one of the boys, Gordon. I missed Gordon. So Jamie, Sylvester, Gordon, and the two girls, Helen and Lillian. Gordon got caught, and the man has him at knife point. So he asks the other children to come out, and he realizes that these children are not normal children. I think Sylvester mentions it. Although he's only 12, he has been doing this kind of stuff for years. So that's another thing that's strange. In the end, Gordon can get free and slices the man, a shallow cut in the stomach. And because of the blood, he gets eaten by his own creation. And the children escape. So far for the plot. Because this is a work of wildbow, I'm going to overanalyze every sentence here. So let's pick up. So when Jamie catches Thomas, who is sniffing around and seeing the other children, that they try to get into the barn, they ask him if he heard about the crying man of Butcher's Row, or the mother hen and nurse who, the babies. I think these are foreshadowings maybe not foreshadowings, but we see in this world terrible things happen. What's the crying man of Butcher's Row? Butcher's Row itself is not a pleasant name. And the nurse who, the babies? I don't even want to know. So, the Academy is a very dangerous organization, I think, because apparently the Academy sends children to do its dirty work. I don't know what this means. I expect that these children are only in childlike bodies, because Sylvester mentions 2 times that Lillian is not one of us. So I think the Academy maybe has some influence, or has genetically modified children as assassins and enforcers, which would be terrible. The snake charmer doesn't want to go to the Academy because, yes, they get the great discoveries, and other people who research into this biological creating life stuff, they are left by the wayside, or they are just fuel. So this Academy seems to have very sinister motives. And we'll learn here that Lillian is a student of the Academy, just enrolled with 13 years. So my question is, when I was 13, I just started my second foreign language, and these children, if they are children, really children, they already learn advanced biology to create life, to shield yourself from life, from monsters created with this science. The man, an adult man, throws a flask with acid or enzymes at the floor, and Sylvester gets terribly burned. It burned, and then it turns horribly cold, which is worse because it's his dying nerves. It's nightmare fuel. Chapter 1.1 is already a world where I don't want to live. Gordon is described as the hero, golden-haired, noble, likable, talented. So, and if I read this in a wildbow story, it reminds me. I don't want to spoil Wildbow's other works, but he didn't make it very far. So my guess, my first speculation would be Gordon will die. If not soon, then in the mid to long term he will die. The interesting touch is that the buildings are shored up by strategic plant growth, which have a characteristic red tint to the leaves, which reminds me of War of the Worlds, which fits the Victorian style of the story. So if I would imagine how the story looks as a movie, I would imagine that the scene starts at dusk with either light to heavy rain, children wearing either dresses or something fitting the Victoria era, so heavy jackets, raincoats, which are waxed heavy boots, and then they go into this almost, I imagine, derelict building where the holes in the wall are covered with trees with strange red leaves, and I would maybe film it a little bit like Pleasantville with very, very gray and brown tones, but the leaves stick out with their red hue. Yeah, the chapter ends when Helen speaks for the first time, and this is really creepy. So Helen doesn't react to anything at all. Lillian shies away from the monster and doesn't want to see how the monster eats the snake charmer. But then, just like a after-death Bond one-liner, she says in her cute voice, "The Academy sends its regards, Mr. Snake Charmer." So, and I think this sentence alone speaks volumes about Helen. Helen is not a normal girl. I mean, this is not really a deep insight, but it gives up very bad vibes, and I'm looking forward to see more from this group. So, I hope you enjoyed my review and I didn't babble too much into details. I'm completely new to this. If you like this, I'm going to make reviews for at least the first arc, and if I enjoy it enough, I will keep doing these videos. So, see you in the next video.